Hi guys, welcome back to the Babblings podcast. This is like a real back to getting back in the groove. Another rebirth. We've been rebirthed once again. If you're watching this, and I mean, if you're listening, you can hopefully tell. But if you're watching this, you can also definitely tell that I am recording on a new microphone. I went ahead, this is the most expensive microphone that I've bought. I've gotten microphones, the microphones I've gotten before have all been like under $200. But I finally like went bit the bullet, got a Shure microphone because I'm going to be podcasting all of July. To catch you up, I did post last week a kind of podcast episode, but it was also linked to this like June scrapbook thing that I had for the live from the end times, just like because there's so much dumb shit going on in the world right now that I felt like I needed to archive it in some way. And so that was part of that, but also that episode that I recorded, which I actually recorded here. I'm at my aunt's house. Yeah, totally different background. A background you've never seen before. I'm outside on the sun porch, which is like my favorite place to be. That last podcast I recorded without my microphone because I wanted you guys to hear the background noise. And maybe you can still a little bit, but this is a really good and expensive microphone, so you shouldn't hear too much. But that last podcast episode, one, I just needed to ramble because there was just like lots of scary shit going on in the world. And two, I also just needed to get back into the groove. And so if you didn't listen to that podcast, which I really didn't even like talk about it too much, what's going on with me, but basically, I have no home, I have no job. I'm tied to no responsibilities. Celine is here. Celine, say hi. Oh, she poked her head up. She's saying hi. Celine is here, but she's technically living at my aunt's house now, just like not permanently, but because my aunt and her boyfriend are amazing and because of this sun porch where she can be super stimulated. No, it's like one of our favorite places to be. And so she's here for now. And so I'll be here on and off hanging out with her for the summer. But I've got like other stuff and other plans and I'm bit bopping around a bit. I put my notice in to quit my job in April. And I don't think I've talked about it really at all on the podcast just because it's been going on in the background and I just didn't really want to like say things on the podcast, even though it's not like, it's not like the mass amount of people are listening to this. But I just never wanted to say something on the podcast that I hadn't said to like my real life employers or even like my really close family that like I didn't want to say anything on the podcast that I hadn't said to them yet, and just because it has been a lot of transitions and it was kind of a slow process because I was going back and forth a lot trying to figure out my next move, deciding for sure if I wanted to go back to school, which is kind of the plan now, but that's also up in there. I mean, it's not kind of the plan, it is the plan, but I think whether I'm going to go back full time or part time is up in the air. I have decided though, I was kind of like bullshitting around. I want to get a degree in anthropology and maybe more so like social anthropology or I don't know. But that is the goal. I though dropped out of college, which I've talked about a lot, and I dropped out when my grades were not good, which, for depending on when you met me, depending on when in my life you met me, you're shocked that I dropped out because I was failing, or you're like not shocked because you're like, what? Okay. Like, but if you knew me like in high school or like middle school or like are my family, then you would be shocked to be like, what? Allie like dropped out of college and she was failing and da 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 da, which is why it's really hard. Like, I can't really get into the programs I want to get into, which when I was a senior in high school was not an issue. Applied to where I wanted to go and I got it and got scholarships and I wasn't worried about it because my grades were great. I was doing great. School was easy for me. It was. I actually wrote about this. So if you want to read more about it, there's a piece on my Substack. Oh, Confessions of a College Dropout. Yeah, it's a fun one. Like, school was easy for me, and then all of a sudden it wasn't easy, and I had to put more effort in, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the resources. My mental health was a disaster. I was traumatized. There was so much going on. and caused me to not do well in college, and then ultimately dropped out because I just was not in a place to be able to do it. But I am now, and I've also really honed in on like what I want to do. I think also there's another portion of people that would be very surprised that I'm going back to school, because I have done everything that I've needed to do in the last 7 years to not have to go back in order to like create a life without a degree and network and get certificates if I needed it, or put in the work experience or whatever. And I don't have to go back to school. And I think that that's also why I am so interested in going back to school, because it's not something that I have to do. It's not something that I feel like I need to do for like my self-worth. It's not to like check a life box off. It's because I genuinely want to learn more. One, because I've been writing so much, which is also why I was throwing around going back for English. And I think I would maybe be interested in doing some creative writing courses, or I don't know. But one, because I just genuinely want to get better, like hone in on some skills, like especially for writing. Like that is a skill that one may naturally have, but can be like refined. And then also, they're like anthropology and culture and sociology, like those are things that I'm really interested in for like my larger life project, which I don't know if that makes sense. You're like, larger life project, what are you talking about, Allie? But just from like, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I feel like I have kind of a life long project. And okay, I don't really know how to explain it. Maybe when I come, I'll have to get some better words to explain what I'm trying to say, but just know that it's for like a bigger goal than just checking off that I'm going back to school. Because also I might go back to school and not finish again. Like I don't like. I just know that there is something about going back to school that I feel very confident that I'm being led that way, and it's to network more, open more opportunities. I don't know. Also, something that I just fucking want to do. So that has really motivated me and prompted a lot of change that I decided to make this spring. And part of that involved deciding to leave my job. I just didn't see where it would be compatible with me going back to school. And especially until like very, very recently, I was like dead set on going back to school full time. And I'm not necessarily dead set on that anymore. I was dead set on going back full time and like being in person, like totally 100% doing it again. I'm not set on that. I'm just more open now that I don't have a job anymore, and I ended up moving a lot sooner than I thought. I didn't think I was going to move till August, and I ended up leaving my old apartment at the end of May, and all my stuff is in storage. So, like, life is just like in a different place than I expected it to be, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And so, I'm just remaining open to maybe this fall or going back to school looking a little bit differently than what I expected it to. So, anyways, all that was like a really wow, I went on a tangent, but what I started to say was about my new microphone. And why I bit the bullet to get this microphone is because I have a lot of time on my hands, and I said to myself, Allie, at the end of the day, you know what you really want to do. And you know that you love babblings, everything that comes with it. I love recording the podcast, or I love writing personal essays or putting my journal entries up there. I'm working on the babblings website right now, which is like also a lot of fun, like really doing the website and creating this thing that I don't really know what necessarily I'm creating or what it's going to turn into, but I love it, and I'm just like following my heart with it. So why not take this time when I have all of this time on my hands, literally all of July and pretty much all of August, to put 100% into babblings. The other thing though is that I do just genuinely enjoy doing this, like obviously, or else I wouldn't keep doing it. And so it doesn't really matter also at the end of the day, because I just will keep doing this no matter what. I've cycled through so many different like projects and businesses and da 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 da, and finally landed here, and like this is what I really like. I feel like I've done a lot of those kinds of like projects or like businesses or like real estate, because I enjoyed them, but also at the end of the day it was about making money, and this is like my first hobby passion project that like I'm not pressed to turn into a financial situation. Would that be great? Yes, but I will keep doing it if not, and I've never really had a passion project that I think I could say the same thing about. So fuck it, I bought a $700 microphone. Fuck it, I bought a $700 microphone. I have no job, and I'm gonna do babblings all of July and all of August. So we're getting a podcast episode every week, you guys, and I'm gonna work on the website. My goal is to be done with the website September. So take the next 2 months to kind of like finalize it. I want to move a lot of my Substack stuff over into like an archived blog album or whatever it's called onto my website. And then I also hopefully want to continue to grow my Substack over the next 2 months so that when I start my website, I would love to be like, okay, I love you guys so much on my Substack. Come over to my website. I just like babbling, and I'm really in my own little world here at my aunt's house, and so I'm just vibing. There's something like I have a new setup too. I'm recording on my phone. So yeah, this is like a really new setup. And also I've wanted to make sure that I could have a setup that could be really portable, because with all of this like open-endedness in my life right now, I'm like, which is also why I'm not set on going back full time and in person to school, because I feel like school's not off the table because that's happening, but I'm open to it being part-time or like one class at a time for a while, and then like slowly really getting back into the groove, because like with this open-endedness, I want to travel. I want to go to Puerto Rico. Like I want to go spend a month in Puerto Rico. And I want to do babblings while I do that. So I'm like wanting to make sure I have like a very portable, easy to travel with setup, which I do now. It's my phone, stand for my phone, my laptop, and this, and then like the connected cords that I need to make it all happen. But like this literally fits in my purse. I still have a lot more room. So I'm very happy right now. And I'm so happy with this microphone. I did a couple test recordings and I'm like, damn. And my phone is making me look really good, I feel. And my skin is getting itself together. So I'm not going to be as anxious about you being on camera anymore. I outlined this episode like a month ago, and so all of the current events that I put in the outline are not necessarily current events anymore, and I also talked about pretty much all of it in that catch-up podcast, Live from the End Times, that I posted last week. So I really don't have any current events for you guys. And also, like, I'm not maybe in the capacity to even get into like the shit going on in the world right now. But I will say it's Monday, June 30th. Jeff Bezos and his now wife, what's her name? I don't remember, got married in Italy over the weekend in their week-long thing. And I don't really have anything to say about it besides like, I mean, gross, like weird, but like, okay. Also, everybody's outfits were not good. If you're gonna do this, like, do it good. I hate when rich people have money, but like aren't moneying well. And nobody at that wedding looked expensive or looked cheap. Anyways, I think it's important and is a good, honestly, I think, historical marker for people to see all of these like celebrities and billionaires that attended the wedding that are friends with Bezos, because it doesn't matter how relatable Khloe Kardashian or Kim Kardashian pretend to be, or how hot you think Sydney Sweeney is. They are rich, and the rich protect the rich hang out with the rich love the rich. It doesn't matter if you love Oprah. Oprah was at Jeff Bezos' wedding because she is a multimillionaire. And I feel like this wedding was such a gross display of wealth, and an unashamed one. A display that was unashamed to show how much money they have compared to everybody else. unashamed to show how little they care about any crises going on in the world. Not just Jeff Bezos and his girl, but all of the celebrities that attended. And in an unashamed display of how connected they all are, and showing these are our peers and you're never going to be like us. You're not invited. We don't care about you, and you're never going to be like us, and we don't want you to. But I think it is also positive because of everything that's going on in the world. Celebrities are going to get more and more audacious. They're going to have the audacity of showing these gross displays, these obscene displays of wealth and power. And because of social media, we're going to continue to have it thrown in our faces up close and personal. And I can only hope that that's going to continue to contribute to people realizing that they are not like us. They're never going to be like us. They're never going to give us a hand to be like them. And ultimately they're going to save themselves and save their peers. And so we need to save ourselves. We hold the power. There's more of us than there are of them. And once we disconnect from them, they do lose power. They do lose money. They do lose resources once we start taking eyes off them and stop putting money in their pockets and feeding their egos. I fear this is gonna be a long podcast. But yeah, when I was like getting ready to record, I was like, is there anything like that I want to talk about? I mean, it's not like there's things like I don't want to talk about things. It's like I just don't have the energy. But I was like, you know what? Let's talk about these fucking assholes. I do need to at least comment on these fucking rich assholes ruining our planet. And they'll leave us behind. Okay, let's go ahead and do a pick a card. I just went ahead and shuffled and meditated with this deck for a few seconds. Had to pause the recording and I'm back now. And I always just ask for love and protection, and for anybody that's going to be like tuning into this or called to listen to this, what they need to hear for the week, something you've been struggling with, or if it's just a positive affirmation that you need, or a sign, whatever, for whoever, whatever is coming in, what do they need to hear? Which also keep in mind, it's going to be very, very general because I don't know really who's tuning into this. The universe does, and it could be different people for different reasons. And so just take what resonates. And as my favorite tarot person says, take what resonates and regard the motherfucking rest. Love you, Megan. Okay. So let's just see what you guys need. Oh, okay. I felt like that was a lot. I'll do one more. I do read very intuitively. It is very different than sometimes how other people read. I just set the intentions and interpret as it comes. I feel like I need one more card to know what this is about. That came out fast. This is super fun because I can now show you guys spit out too. Oh wow, okay. First of all, Temperance on the bottom. This is a new deck that I got last week. I'm really excited. I've been literally wanting this deck for forever. We got the Three of Pentacles, the Page of Wands, the King of Wands, and the Fool. Let me look at this for a second. Can you hear the wind chimes? Okay, so I just messed up my hair. Allie, we're doing a center part today. Okay. What's coming to me, and for what you guys need to hear and what you guys need to know, there is some sort of, I mean, especially with the Page of the Wands and the Fool, there's some sort of new adventure, new chapter, new passion project, new idea, or just new like sense of self as well that's coming up here. And with the Three of Pentacles, I'm kind of getting, I forgot Temperance was at the bottom. It was Five of Cups or Five of Cups. I really feel like there's some sort of new adventure or project that does require collaboration, like with the Three of Pentacles, or not necessarily collaboration, but there are people in your world that you can talk to about this, work together, maybe to problem solve, or to like generate new ideas with, or to help you kind of, yeah, this week, really what's coming to me is whatever you're planning, and maybe you're not planning it, maybe it's going to be a surprise and it hasn't come through yet, but whatever you're trying to do, like, lean on people around you. Lean on your people that you can collaborate with or talk things through with, or can help you come up with ideas to further this new like passion project or adventure, or it could quite literally be travel, like traveling with friends. But what's gonna like make you be in your power, especially with the King of Wands, what's gonna keep you really like bold and creative and passionate and like keep your fire light, is working with people and also just staying like healed and like patient with Temperance on the bottom. Staying just like in a really positive energy. Or if you've already been collaborating, if you've already been talking, if you've already been leaning on your community or those around you, like if that's already happened, then maybe there is a sense of like, okay, you did that, but now you need to stand in your power and you need to like hold up your end of the bargain and do what you said you were going to do. And maybe by yourself, especially like with the Fool again and the Page of Wands, there's this really fabulous like individualisticness to it and like following your gut. And with the King of Wands, like there's a bit of like needing to maybe be bold, be passionate, set out on a new course in a new direction, knowing that you have that support behind you. But now it's your turn to like jump off the cliff, like go head first, and like trust that you've put into place all of the pieces you need to have a successful project, to have a successful travel, like self, like maybe you're traveling by yourself, whatever you've done, like now it's time to like just like go after it a little bit. So yeah, I know that I said two different things, but I think because it could be two different things. I mean, and it's not really two different things. I think in just generally, it is about going off and adventuring and starting something new and a new chapter and maybe a new like project. And you've either already collaborated with people and need to like take the training wheels off and go ahead and do it, or you need to start the process of like collaborating with people, running your ideas by people, maybe like organizing something with someone, strategizing, asking someone to help you plan something, or like, I know you're not coming on the trip with me, but can you like help me plan what I'm gonna do, or can you like give me some advice, or da 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 da. So yeah, it's either you've already collaborated and now you need to take the training wheels off and you need to move forward, or you need to allow other people in a little bit, put your ideas in some other people's heads that you trust. The Three of Pentacles is not like tell the whole world. It's like people that you trust and work well with and also know you and like will also bring something to the table, like work with them in order to further your ideas. And then once you have, then it's like two sides of the same timeline. You're either in the pre-collaboration timeline or you're in the post-collaboration timeline. And so assign that to yourself if it does at all correlate. If not, like leave it. Don't take it at all. Don't force anything to fit. But yeah, I want to get some advice for the person that is already collaborated. Um, that's already, run their ideas. It's time to take the training wheels off and to like trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your own like power, and like maybe assert yourself too. With the King of Wands, there's like a bit of like needing to assert yourself, put yourself out there, be confident putting yourself out there. But like a little piece of advice for that person: Page of Swords, Nine of Wands, and the Emperor. Another page is interesting. Yeah, take the training wheels off. Whatever it is, you have enough experience, you have enough. I keep hearing like battle hardened. I don't know. Someone has got the battle experience. I don't know, somebody going into battle. Je ne sais quoi. Also, you have the je ne sais quoi. I was a little confused about the Page of Swords, for I asked for another card and I got the Knight of Cups. So this is definitely a new journey, a new passion, a new adventure that you're like passionate about and want to like, it's like following your heart a bit. I don't know, with this page of swords, she's got the sword out in front of her, but she's like looking away. Like it's giving me kind of like shy energy. Like you don't need to be shy. The Knight of Wands is on the bottom and the Knight of Pentacles is under him. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like the advice is like you don't need to be shy. Be honest about what you want. You're battle hardened enough to have gone through, I don't know, similar jobs or experiences or like whatever to be able to handle whatever you're going after. And you have the faculties with the Emperor, like be in your motherfucking power and do it and go after your heart's desire. I think this could relate to me like a little bit in the sense of kind of how I was talking about like babblings, like not being shy, kind of like this, not really like the original message, but the advice. I feel like I can kind of relate to myself about like just like not being shy. I've done so many other things that all like culminate into me being able to like do this and do it well. And especially with the Emperor, there's some sort of like mastery here. And with the Knight of Wands on the bottom, it's really like go for it. Whatever it is, I don't know. Go for it. Go for it. So that advice was the person that has already collaborated and needs to take the training wheels off. The person that has not yet, the advice, just like the message you needed was that you need to maybe collaborate or talk to some more people about whatever you're planning. Some trusted people. Do not have your shit on the internet. For people to take your ideas or whatever, or like don't, people's advice that you trust or that have skills that would help whatever you're trying to build or come up with, like talk to those people. I always record in this sweatshirt. I have other clothes. Sorry, I'm just getting a little hot. I have other clothes. This is just my fucking favorite sweatshirt. So anyways, Bunny C. So I started outlining this episode like a month ago, just kind of because I was like wanting to talk about body image and the rise of conservatism and modesty. I feel like I've been seeing all over social media and just in culture slowly over the last few years. All of this going on like in society and culture is definitely contributing to my own like body image issues or confidence. And then especially like doing this, like staring at myself all the time, recording myself, putting myself out there is not easy. Like always worrying about what I look like and what other people think that I look like, and if I'm coming off well or if I look fat or if I like how do I look. Plus I feel like I've really noticed in social situations and with friends lately, and I actually just got back from a bachelorette trip and the same thing happened. Never calling anyone out, but I just like have been kind of collecting data in my head, I feel like the last few months, of how much when we're all together, and specifically like when like women are together, we talk about our bodies. And I've been doing so much work to accept my body and just be like happy and healthy and change my mindset over the last few years. And then the last 6 months doing this and like social media. And also I noticed like Love Island is on right now. Watching Love Island every night makes me super self-conscious. It's just all stuff that I have to constantly work on and talk myself off the edge and like check my thought train, derail that thought train, because it's just coming from this like insecure place, but also what society has conditioned me to view as beautiful or attractive or as like desirable, and all of the ways that I don't match that image, And this weekend was the same, or like whenever I'm with my friends, people are always talking about their bodies, and I think it's almost a coping mechanism that sometimes we point out things that we're insecure about before somebody else can point it out, or we point it out so that it's not something like unspoken. You can't hold over me that I have the biggest boobs here because I know, like, I already said I have the biggest boobs, or the smallest boobs, or whatever it is. We were watching Love Island this weekend on the trip, and one of the girls was like, damn, how do you guys watch this all the time? This is like gonna make me so insecure, da 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 da. And I was like, no, I know, like it is hard to watch all the time and to not feel insecure, or to not let these people that have this like quote perfect body or the ideal beauty standard and not compare yourself to them all the time. And I was telling them, I was like, in my head, I just have to repeat the mantra: someone else's beauty doesn't detract from mine. Someone else's beauty doesn't detract from mine. Someone else's beauty doesn't detract from mine. I find myself having to say that a lot, but I think that's something that's really important. Really getting to the root and like understanding, right? We're comparing ourselves to each other all the time and for no reason, really, but to pick our own selves apart. And really understanding that someone else being attractive or being good at something or whatever they have, them having that doesn't detract from my beauty or my personality or how well I'm liked. It's not a tit for tat. It's not a this or that. It's not a like a game or a competition. That's what it is. Life is actually not a competition, whether we're talking about career goals, family goals, body goals, whatever it is. It's not a competition. And so it's a yes and. Two things can be true at once. That person is maybe the hottest person I've ever seen in my life, and I'm also an attractive person. It doesn't mean that that makes me being attractive not true, right? Like we can all be attractive or beautiful or whatever, all in different ways. And somebody's going to like you or they're not going to like you. But I've just noticed so much. My friends bringing up, the gym or diets or this or that. It's something that I've noticed, and something that I've also noticed has kind of regressed how I view myself. I think that's really hard. And, a lot of times people say, we view our bodies the way we do because of our parents. And I think that that is a big thing, hearing, even if your parent never said anything about you to you, about how you look. I think about when I hear people that I love say things about themselves, all you can think is like, oh, well, you must think that about me. Or, oof, if you think you're fat, I can't imagine, what you think about me. And I think that's more where I get caught up. Like, honestly, yes, go through the ebbs and flows of loving yourself. It's not easy every day. But also, I think I get more hung up on worrying about how other people view me, less about how I view myself and whether I like myself enough. It's more about, well, if you think you're fat, like you definitely think I'm fat. And then, wow, you just sit around thinking, oh, that I'm fat. Like, more worried about what other people think, when in reality, like, it's on them if they think that or not. Like, who cares what they think, Like, and again, it's mostly just a projection of their own insecurities. I have a family member, who talks about bodies a lot, is very critical about their own. I was saying to my mom, like, well, listen, it's like, I heard this TikTok the other day that it was like, when you are at your funeral, nobody's like, oh God, she was so fat, or she was so thin, or da da da. People are like, oh, she was so kind, or she was so funny, or she was so loving, or she was so giving. My mom's immediate reaction was like, oh, well, so and so would say, oh my God, she was so cool because she was so thin. And I was like, yeah, she would. And that's because she has an eating disorder. And her eating disorder has rotted the inside of her brain for so long that she cannot view anything in any other with any other filter besides all of her deep, deep, deep insecurities about how she looks and what she needs to do to maintain the so-called look. And so, like, once again, yes, but that's not a true reflection of you. And like I said, me doing this podcast is hard because I'm constantly looking at myself. And, when you look at other people, you don't see, everything that bothers them about themselves. But when I look at the video footage, my eye goes directly to all of the things that bother me about my appearance or about the way that I talk. Or, I've been trying to get a good, I've never had a good setup, and so I feel like my angles are always bad, and I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is, this is me, whatever. But I'm like, oh, if it wasn't angled that way, my face wouldn't look so chunky, or if it wasn't this, or if it wasn't that. Or I also really embrace my natural beauty. I don't know if it's out of laziness or what, and so I really just don't wear a lot of makeup. And I'm like, oh, Allie, I bet more people would have liked that TikTok clip if you wore more makeup during that podcast or filmed it from a different angle, so like your neck didn't look so fat or da 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 da. And it's like, while I will think that way, I have to derail myself because what? At the end of the day, I'm going to contort myself and change myself for other people. to be more palatable to other people, then those are not the people that I want. Those are not the people that I want in my life or that I want to view me or whatever, because I'm changing everything about myself in order for them to like me or think I'm attractive. Or that also goes to thinking that you need to be attractive to be important. And that's not true. Just, you don't have to be the most beautiful person in the world to have something important to say. So my own insecurities and like watching myself a lot more frequently than I normally would on video, combined with the rise of like skinnytok on TikTok and the overall like conservative views and like modesty culture and big bags. And I mean, and you can like go back a couple years and just see like as like people's wording started changing or slang they started using, we would just like slowly. I mean, fat phobia never went away, but it's definitely on the rise, and it's definitely almost cool again to be fat phobic. And there's a couple different reasons why the conservatives and the Christian nationalists and the white supremacists and the incels all are obsessed with being skinny. One, when you're skinny and malnourished and not like feeding yourself well, you're dumber, you're easier to control, you're a lot more you're physically weaker, which makes that easier to one, dominate you, to control you, to just like in a cult, there's often a hyper focus on diet and controlling what the people in the cult are eating. And usually the leader does not have those same rules. But a big part of that is because you're cognitively impaired when you're hungry and you're starving yourself in order to look a certain way or to look a certain weight, and you're not nourishing yourself. You are a lot easier to control, to tell what to do, to fall in line. And then the Christian nationalists and conservatives have this call to return to traditional gender roles, right? This call to return to a time before when things were better and people were in more traditional roles, right? Which just means, like trad wife content and all of that stuff, and being subservient, serving your husband because he's the leader of the house. Well, it's a lot easier to be subservient and to quite literally take up less space and to just look pretty when you're smaller. Being smaller, one, gives the impression that you're more subservient, and then you're quite literally taking up less space in a place where you're not meant to take up any space. All you should do is be upholding the man of the home, which also goes along to then the incels too, and all of them are obsessed with these beauty standards of what women are supposed to look like, which ultimately all goes back to what it's all rooted in: white supremacy. And the white supremacists are obsessed with thinness because thinness is most closely related to whiteness. There's also the more insidious crowd that is wanting to prepare people for when we don't have resources, when you can only have a certain amount of rations to eat for the week, when you can't just go and eat whatever you want. And so you're going to have to eat less. You're going to have to be smaller. You're going to have to be weaker, which is why if the only way we're going to dismantle this like fat phobia and deconstruct it in our brains so that we can really rebel against what the system is trying to put in front of us or make us feel or force us to understand, is understanding the history of fat phobia. Why did we get here? Why do we have these beauty standards? And what can we do to resist? Fat phobia is deeply rooted and based off of racism. The attempt of colonizers and slave owners to separate black bodies from white bodies to make it more appealing to call them property or to make them less human. And how do we separate them if all that really is different is skin color? Well, what's also different are facial features and oftentimes bodies. Even though historically, technically being fat was a marker of being wealthy, it meant that you were able to eat as much as you want and gorge, in fact. It meant that you had money to not only feed yourself, but to feed your family. And you were able to buy materials to make clothes that fit you, which also meant that you were wealthy. Throughout history, women throughout cultures and races were depicted at larger sizes and often during the time when it was the ideal beauty standard. This idea that thinness equals health, wealth, beauty in this world is a fairly newer concept. Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat-Phobia by Sabrina Strings is actually a book that I've been trying to get my hands on for a couple of years. It's been on my reading list to buy. And then I kind of just forget about it and get absorbed into all of these other books that I want to read. And then every time I go to the bookstore, I'm like, let me see if they have Fearing the Black Body. And it's never there. And I never order it. But it's on my list. I'm just going to fucking get it one of these days. But I actually went through and read a lot of reviews from that book, read a lot of other articles that reference that book, and I think it really is a foundational book from what I've read and from what I understood in understanding the roots of fat phobia in the fear of Black people and wanting to differentiate them as non-human. It wasn't until the late 17th century that fat became a resource for racial categorization. The writings of early race scientists like George Cuvier, J.J. Viret, and George Louis drew direct ties between gluttony, stupidity, and the characteristics of Africans whose idleness was attributed to their warm climate, a pervasive trope also found in colonial discourse about India. Enlightenment era rationalism elevated food to the moral plane of asceticism required for intellectual pursuit. Soon, a thin physique had gone from being a sign of sickliness to evidence of the moral and intellectual superiority of Europeans, supported by the writings of anthropologists and naturalists seeking to codify and biologize a racial hierarchy. These works place particular emphasis on the bodies of Southern African women, who were depicted as grotesquely monstrous and animalistic, while also serving as a source of voyeuristic fascination. Fatness isn't just also a signal now to being poor instead of being wealthy. It's also this signal to people that someone may be not smart or is lazy or isn't doing all that they can in order to not be the way that they are. Not even thinking about the fact that maybe they like the way that they are, they have other health problems that contribute to their weight, or that they also might just be healthy. Over centuries, doctors and scientists have used their field to completely rewrite and create their own narrative about why somebody's body looks a certain way and have assigned this morality to being thin versus being fat and have created fatness almost this personality trait or sin that needs to be beaten out of people. And people that are fat have given into the sin and therefore should be punished because of it. This reminds me a lot about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a term that I learned about when I started really diving deep into cults. And cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more conflicting beliefs, ideas, or values. It says an example is a person who believes smoking is harmful but continues to smoke. Oftentimes when people are in cults, they're being told all of these things that don't really align with their true worldview or beliefs or what they've been told to be is how reality works. It completely conflicts with maybe what the leader or what the group think is for the cult. And in order to ease that discomfort, you have to kind of work your way around whatever that discomfort or idea is mentally in order for it to make sense. And so in order to treat people like property or to say that they're less than or to say that they're is equal as an animal when they have all of the same faculties and brains that you do. And in order to create that racial hierarchy, you have to deal with that cognitive dissonance. It's uncomfortable because how can I say that when what it looks like I don't know it to be true. You have to create these constructs in order for white supremacy to prevail. You have to be able to have a workaround for people so that they can be out of the discomfort that is a cognitive dissonance. And how do you do that? You find all of the ways and exploit all of the ways that these other group of people could be different than you, and you make it into a moral epidemic. And a lot of that has happened through, quote, science. By the early 20th century, the culturally, scientifically, and religiously embedded derision of fat as a sign of racial otherness, intellectual inferiority, and moral debasement set the stage for a century that culminated in the newest moral panic around fat, the so-called obesity epidemic. The rise of the so-called obesity epidemic, Black women's bodies continue to be subject to medicalized disgust, despite the significant evidence that weight stigma, not weight itself, contributes a serious health risk and predictor of negative health outcomes. The stakes of this debate around obesity are thus exponentially higher for Black women, but debates around medical racism rarely address fat phobia. And while America and the world has gotten unhealthier over the centuries as we've added more additives and preservatives and changed our diets, is the so-called obesity epidemic just another way to demoralize, differentiate, and debase Black people, and particularly Black women, through medical abuse and racism? That's why in that quote it's talking about the stigma actually being more harmful than weight itself. Medical professionals' biases are actually more dangerous than anyone's condition or weight itself. It's why there are studies that show that medical professionals don't take Black people's pain as seriously as white or non-Black people's. It's why Black women have the highest birth mortality rate. The system and society we live in today was built brick by brick to uphold white supremacy and has only compounded on itself over time. So how do we resist? How do we resist the propaganda? How do we resist our own internal monologue? We have to understand that it's been centuries and centuries of conditioning and purposeful brainwashing in order for us to see beauty and have beauty standards in the way that we do and view fatness and bodies in the way that we do today. And it'll take centuries and centuries of unlearning in order for those after us to not be born already conditioned to think this way. But it is possible, and part of that is just knowing that. Part of healing my own body issues is understanding that my body issues are rooted in racism. It's understanding that these body ideals are constructs. They were created out of thin air. They were created to uphold systems that were demoralizing and treating people as less than human. It was created in order to uphold this racial hierarchy. It's made up. Not only that, but our bodies are so much more than what they look like. I have to remind myself all the time, our bodies are miracles. We understand how our bodies work, but we don't really know why. Isn't that the great question? Why we're here, why we're alive, why we're sentient creatures, why our heart continues to pump and our lungs breathe air. We know how it works, but why? It just is. And that is a miracle in itself. Our bodies are not here just to look good or for other people to analyze. Our bodies are not here just for pictures or for guys to think that we're hot. Our bodies are here to keep us alive. If you're a cis woman and you're going to create life, like if that's the choice that you want to make, like then your body is here to create life. It's not about just like sitting pretty and not having stomach rolls. On my whole body image journey, I've just been so grateful too as well for being able to use my body, to be able to move it and to have it. And as a dance teacher, to feel the freedom that comes with dancing and expressing yourself. I think another helpful thing is to really deconstruct how you assign morality to things, right? Like, so things, food is neutral. Numbers, math is a neutral thing. Math and numbers is just what weight is. It's just an idea to gauge so that we can like comprehend that in our puny human minds. But it's just math. Math is not good or bad. It just is. Just like weight, it just is. It's not good or bad. A certain number isn't good or bad. We all have different body types, and that's going to look different. Technical health, even if And I feel like that is up for debate. It's going to look different for everybody. It's just a number. It doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person. Just like food is neutral. Food is food. Food is sustenance. Food is what keeps us moving and fuels our body. And yes, there are some things that are literally and obviously unhealthier than others. But nothing is good or bad. Nothing makes you a good or a bad person depending on what you decide to fuel your body with that day. Will it maybe make you feel different? Yes. And that's a conversation for you to have with yourself because we're not in each other's bodies. You can't tell me what makes me feel good versus what makes me feel like shit. Just like I can't tell you that. As someone who does struggle actually a little bit with body dysmorphia, I have found that now that I've neutralized numbers like for my weight actually help me ground myself in reality, helps me get out of my head and the constant shifting image that I have of myself. And whether it's good or bad or attractive or not, it grounds me where I am. And because it's a neutral number, it's not going to sway me one way or another. It's just telling me, no, this is reality. You don't need to pick yourself apart trying to figure out how you look. This is it. And different weights look different on different people. I noticed lately that I don't feel very strong. And so something that I want to work on this summer is feeling strong again. As a dancer, having a strong core and strong arms and strong legs, I noticed the difference of being able to move furniture or go on long walks or whatever I want to do. But I want to feel strong in order to enjoy my life and to do the things that I want to do, not in order for someone to love and accept me and to tell me how beautiful I am. No, I just want to be able to be strong. My mom had open heart surgery a couple of years ago, and she was the youngest one. At the rehab, most of their peoples were like in their 80s. And it was interesting because one of the PTs said that most of the people that come in at that age are coming in to get help or to get fit in order to be able to walk around their neighborhood or to hold their grandchild or to go up and down their stairs or to be present at family events. Like you get to a certain age and that's what you care about. And that's what I care about. I want to feel strong so that I can go on long swims, but not so that I can look like the hottest person in a bathing suit. I am the hottest person in a bathing suit. I don't care. It is a constant battle and I've not perfected it by any means. And like I've said, doing this podcast has actually been really, really hard for me. It's really, really hard for me to constantly look at myself. And I'm sure when I edit this, there's going to be tons of times when I think, oh God, why did I turn my head that way? Or why did I do X, Y, and Z? But ultimately, that's not going to keep me from putting out this podcast. That's not going to keep me from going after my dreams, going after what I want, and being the person that I am. It's not going to keep me from taking up space in this world figuratively and literally. We're all, not all of us, but a lot of us are looking for ways that we can resist and that we can resist, everything that's going on in the world, a way that we can push back, a way that we can make a difference. And sometimes the biggest difference we can make is in our own heads, in the way that we perceive ourselves, in the way that we talk about ourselves, in the way that we perceive others and talk about others and heal ourselves is its own form of resistance. Enjoying your body is its own form of resistance. Being yourself, taking up space and not assimilating is resistance. It is revolutionary to accept yourself wholeheartedly and love yourself. And in times like these, when we are working against systems that like I said, were created over centuries and have just compounded on top of each other to reinforce this narrative that they want to create in order to ultimately hold up white supremacy. Sometimes all we can do is radically love ourselves and love other people and little by little by little spread that acceptance around, and then eventually everyone will get there too. Like I said, it's taken centuries to create society to that we're born in and indoctrinated into these thoughts and beliefs, and it'll take centuries for it to be undone. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible, and it doesn't mean that we can't do anything. And especially if you're going to enjoy your life and your body while you're in it, don't spend your life, I think that's my biggest fear, is spending my life hating myself. I don't want to spend my life hating myself and picking myself apart and contorting myself in order to be palatable for other people. Like I just won't. There's something in me that rejects that, resists that, is stubborn about it. It's a little bit of a fuck you mentality for trying to make me conform. And I'm going to do what I need to do and fight myself every day to deconstruct those thought patterns so that I don't spend my life hating myself. And I don't want you to spend your life hating yourself either. But if we don't know why we think a certain way that we do, we don't know how to undo that thinking. So that's what's been on my mind lately. I hope everybody has a fabulous week. I will be back next Monday with another Babblings. We're going all of July, every Monday. We're getting a Babblings episode. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like and comment. Share with your friends. I'm not gonna be, like, oh, hey, like, no, I want to fucking do this. So let's like have some community. I feel like nobody ever fucking comments. I want to talk to people. Okay. Anyways, I hope you have a great week. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Babblings.